Welcome to another episode of the Apex Perspective podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Baqar Shameem, who is currently the VP of Technology, Strategy, Delivery, and Digital Transformation at Encore's Home Solutions. Baqar, can we start with your background and kind of what led you in this particular route?
Definitely. Thank you, Ariane. Really appreciate it and joining this podcast. So my background, I over 20 years, I've been in technology space. Um, I and in multiple diverse companies. So I've been in
Mhm,
biotech, automotive, finance, healthcare, which really gives a very different perspective in terms of how tech is enabling the business to meet the business outcomes, right? That
mhm,
is driving, and really helping me kind of navigate in terms of how do I um, kind of collaborate with my stakeholders, collaborate with my business partners to solve their business problems.
mhm. Right. So, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, let's go.
Excellent. So I saw that in your earlier part of your career, your undergraduate degree, I believe you went to Deccan College of Engineering and Technology, and subsequently you did get a management degree specifically. I'm curious as to really what was the reasoning behind that? I know you chose to become
So
technical first. Yeah,
yeah,
please go ahead.
so I did get a BS, and then actually I came to US and did a master's
Mm-hmm,
again. Really, which helped me in terms of really changing my thought process in terms of how um, problem solving happens within this country, right? Engaging uh, s- uh, with my peers, students, my professors, which really evolved my thinking process in this
mm-hmm,
education background, right? I did take go to MBA at Cornell in 2012, which
okay.
really then connected me in terms of, hey, how do I look at organizations? How do I look at um, connecting with the business growth, the financials of an organization, and how do I connect technology enabling some of those business outcomes? Um,
Mm-hmm,
Really helped me in terms of managing my stakeholders, helped me in terms of um, my thought process in evolving strategies
mm-hmm,
because it was more business outcome oriented rather than taking a more platform or technology oriented kind of approach, right? So looking at a business problem and working backwards from it rather
mm-hmm,
than looking at platforms and working forward from there. So
mm-hmm.
it's really, I think, in the leaders today, I think that that's one of the mindset and the thinking that we really need to drive in terms of how you are addressing those business problems as you're building the strategy.
Mhm. So as of today, from your perspective in terms of leadership, do you think there's a necessary combination of both an understanding of the technical and of the business execution side of things?
Um, Definitely, I think what we are seeing is there is a culmination. More business people kind of leaning into technology and
Hmm.
technology for leaders leading into business, right? I think
Right.
that really helps um, build that mindset, build that thought process in terms of how we are addressing some of those business problems, right? For the business teams to look into the AI technologies that we have coming up, and the technology teams to relate that AI to the business problems that we are trying to solve.
Hmm.
I've been doing a lot of work in AI, and really it needs to start with the business problem, right? And then connecting to the right AI tools that we want to drive. So I think that leaning in by business and the technology, I think is really helping both
Hmm.
business and technology coming together. And I think it's going to evolve in terms of how this moves forward with either business taking on more of the technology and AI,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
With technology kind of I wouldn't say going away, but the role kind of decreasing.
Hmm. So if I'm correct, I may have seen a statistic on digital transformation specifically and the success rate. It appears that 33% might only become successful. So what is the reasoning behind that as someone who's done this before?
Definitely. I think one of the initial part of it is what are we trying to solve, right?
Hmm.
What's our end goal? What's the outcome that we are trying to achieve? And then trying to work backwards from it. Um, that part is sometimes lost as teams collaborate to start working on the solution, right? So they're
Mhm.
starting to work on the journey and losing the focus and the goal in terms of the outcomes that they want to achieve, right? Along the journey, you also need to involve and engage the stakeholders that will have the impact with the digital transformation, right?
Mhm.
For example, if you're in manufacturing, you're deploying a new process, you're transforming a new process, you need to engage with the plant floor, right? You need to engage those operators and the process folks who are going to actually adopt it. A lot of
Mhm.
digital transformations, they fall over or fall on the side because the adoption is not there. You
Okay.
really need for people to feel the ownership, right, and engage them in building that transformation, building that
Mhm.
story in terms of how this is really going to drive the outcome that will impact the business.
Right. And what's really interesting is with these programs, when they go wrong, do you think is it the main issue that they're not engaging stakeholders, or do you think there's other consistent issues with these transformations that are causing a low success rate?
Yes. So a well thought out process in terms of um, looking at existing footprint, right? It's
Hmm.
very easy to look outside the industry and look for a shiny toy that's going to come in and solve your problem.
Hmm.
You have to ensure that the shiny toy is going to integrate well with your environment, right?
Right.
So, excuse me. Sometimes
No worries.
um, teams get into that trap, and then most of the time is spent in trying to integrate that technology, right?
Hmm.
So you have delayed the outcomes. The business is not getting the benefits, right? And you're losing the opportunity to make that transformation that you started off with.
Hmm. Hmm. So it sounds like to me that if there's not a mutual understanding as well with the entire company as to what processes are being integrated, there's going to be a mismatch in the operation itself, and that can delay a lot of different things in the company. Now, as far as the correct leadership style, I was doing some research on you, and a lot of some of the work you've done is done on the global level. A question for you is: has a part of that been leading teams globally as well?
Yeah, it brings a very different perspective when you work with
Right.
global teams. Very diverse ideas, diverse mindset, and really that driving that belonging for the team, right? Um, we I was involved in multiple um, startups or implementations, for example, in Germany
Hmm.
or UK, and the key part is how do you engage those teams? How do you bring those teams in terms of what works in Germany, right? That is going to help me really integrate well with my transformation plan
Hmm.
that will be implemented well, right?
Right.
So you really need to understand the ground level information to integrate with your bigger picture.
Of course. And I think it's really important you mentioned understanding the way other countries or other locations how they operate, their thinking process, their culture. Because one of the reasons why certain mergers and acquisitions aren't successful is due to clash of culture.
Yes.
So how do you approach a potential issue of clash of culture yourself?
I think one of the things is having a diverse team, right?
Hmm.
Including the right team members who bring that background and culture within your team and the perspective, right?
Hmm.
Ensuring that we are driving the outcome for the business with this engaged team who is bringing the local and the global perspective, right? Once you engage them much ahead of time, I think then you are sharing ideas and you are evolving as a team in terms of your thought process, how you are um, evolving your transformation journey.
Hmm. Excellent. Now, I've seen, we were talking about this before the podcast, about leadership now and the changing times of leadership. We've seen the CEO of Adobe step down after 20 years, the CEO of Coca-Cola after nearly a decade step down. And I'm thinking it's it's from what I'm doing the research on, is a lot of because the company and the board wants to go towards an AI driven route. So what do you think are the major gaps in leadership today?
I think AI is really driving a lot of, I would say, um, thinking in terms of where do we want to take the business, right?
Mhm,
So one could be in terms of cost efficiencies, right? For the businesses, how much operating cost do I need to carry with this AI? So it requires a certain mindset and certain thinking and an understanding of where AI is evolving and how do I integrate that AI in my organization, right? Not just within the some of the forces is really outside your organization, right? How are our
mhm,
customers now evolving? Our customers are more AI savvy.
mhm,
How can I serve my customers if I am not integrating those AI um, technologies within my environment and not making my company more efficient and
mhm,
driving faster response to my customers? So I think you're seeing a lot of these executives who have been from the very business background, right?
mhm,
Who now have to start thinking as a technologist, right?
mhm,
Um, so that really puts a pressure on that organization, on the business, and now you'll see a trend of new leaders who are coming up who join the technology part of it with the business, right? And
mhm,
see if AI as their kind of a collaborator with them in terms of how they are building the business strategies.
mhm. What do you think is an important question that most executives that are on the business front of things, what do you think is the question they should be asking themselves?
I think what they should ask is what does my customer look like now in this day and
Mhm,
age,
mhm.
right? And how do I serve that customer,
Right,
right? Because
right.
that is going to really change your thinking in terms of how you want to structure your organization or the products that you need to build, right? There's going to be more efficiency going forward. So speed to market is going to be key, right?
Mhm.
Our customers are evolving and looking for instant gratification in terms of the products that they need on hand, right? So
Yeah.
how am I going to evolve my business using AI to get there?
And on that topic of evolving the company to match kind of the pace of where AI is going, let's talk about how fast AI is kind of moving, right? In terms of the how it's compressing decision timelines specifically. The pace of AI is really pushing boards to demand certain transformations in companies and at a rate that's very fast because of AI's development. What do you think is the leadership risk that will kind of allow companies to be able to keep up with this fast pace of AI that's compressing these decision timelines?
I think the risks are two. One definitely is in terms of governance, right? You want to
Mhm.
ensure that you are definitely incorporating AI and you are moving at the speed as your competitors, but you're not putting your business at risk because there are certain legal and compliance and ethics that are related
Right.
with it, right? So
Mhm.
you want to implement a AI governance framework to
Mhm.
ensure there's data protection, right?
Mhm.
And it should be part of your transformation journey,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Right. So you have, I've also seen, if I'm correct, I've seen you got a licensing or you have an AI for business kind of license from the University of Pennsylvania, and you're also in a little bit of AI right now at your current company. A question for you about agentic systems is, I think we were talking about that risk factor. I think healthcare in the healthcare industry and the finance industry are very sensitive ones. How do you think agentic AI should be utilized in these industries specifically?
I think you can create guardrails within your environment, right?
Mhm.
You can isolate the data so it's not leaving your environment and still be able to leverage AI in its form, right?
Okay.
You can look at generative AI, you can build your own platform. A lot of companies in financial and healthcare are building their own models. They are building their own platforms internally to
Mhm.
drive their productivity, to drive their employees more in the AI space. So I think there are ways you can definitely go about it, and you have to in order to be stay competitive and meet the customer demands. You have to kind of transform your models.
Excellent. So what I'll do now is go ahead and shift this conversation to a little bit more about you, Baqar. And the first question I have for you is, what is something about you or your life that you wish more people knew about?
I think one of the key things is I'm always learning,
Hmm.
and I'm always evolving myself to be the leader. I love playing golf, so anytime I
Okay.
can get an opportunity, I would like to go out and hit some balls. Um, Go ahead. You have a question?
No, please go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. And I love to travel because
Okay.
travel gives a different perspective. You see the culture, you see different people. It really enables you to think things in a different way.
How similar are people, well, now that you've been to multiple parts of the world, how similar are people in different societies?
I think their similarities are there. The approaches might be different, right?
Okay.
Because they are very um, uh, people's minds are ingrained by the culture they are born in, right?
Hmm.
And each culture gives you a different approach to a certain lifestyle or a certain problem
Correct.
to to solve, right? And that's the beauty of it, that you learn those different approaches and incorporate within your um, uh, style of how you are approaching, right?
Right. And when it comes to traveling to these places, is there something specific you learned potentially about people in general, maybe universally? Is there something specific you took away from that?
I think people in general are trying to always do the right thing. They love
Hmm.
their family, they love their neighbors, and they are trying to um, be better of themselves and help their communities and evolve as the world is evolving, right?
Hmm.
And they are supportive of each other, and they like to collaborate and learn themselves too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And what is the number one difference between you in your 20s and you now, would you say?
Oh, wow. I would say in 20s, I did not have a clear direction in where I wanted to go, which was a good thing too, because it created multiple pathways that I could take.
Hmm.
Right now, I'm more focused. I'm more focused in terms of where I want to be, how I would like to contribute to the society, and the leadership that I would like to share with my peers.
Excellent. So what I'll do now is go ahead and share a very concise perspective regarding health and fitness, and then from there we'll go ahead and conclude the
Sure.
podcast with Bucker's plans for this year. So the perspective I really want to share is really about how to make a health and fitness approach as time efficient as possible. As you know, most of my viewers are on the executive and entrepreneur side. So the idea is the biggest problem people face, especially ones who are not having a lot of time on their calendar, is a focus on a location dependent approach. A location dependent approach is one where you have to go to a gym, you have to go to a studio, and that is your number one mechanism to make your physical transformation. The issue with this perspective is that when you're traveling, when you're taking calls all day, and you have an unpredictable situation, you're essentially leaving it up to chance that you'll be able to get the proper requirements in place. That's the problem. So instead of focusing on something that you have to make time for, focus on an approach that can adapt to your schedule. So what I would recommend is leveraging something like a location independent approach, something you
Mm.
can do anytime, anywhere, especially something you do while you're multitasking. So what I would particularly recommend is leveraging something like step count. Because step count is something you can do while you're listening to this podcast. It's
Yeah.
something you can do while you're traveling, and as long as there's a ground underneath you, you can also do it in that manner as well. So the idea is you need to follow something that can adapt to where you go and your schedule, as opposed to you making time for it. And the adherence factor to making this process successful is significantly higher than if you're doing an approach that you can't fully adhere to. And that's kind of the idea and the perspective I want to provide today. And this is actually what I personally use. Step count is what I actually use to lose over 70 pounds and actually
Wow.
keep it up successfully. So that hopefully gets a different perspective and what's traditionally sold to most people and how to make the transformation. So hopefully that was a different perspective that provided a unique way to make this happen. So hopefully that was helpful. What I'll do now is go ahead and shift the conversation to Baqar's plans for this year.
All right, this year, big plans professionally in terms of we have multiple AI strategies. We are implementing voice AI, we are implementing agentic AI in the organization. So I'm looking forward to that part. Personally, play a lot of golf in summer and then travel.
Awesome. Well, where can people learn more about you, Baqar?
Definitely, they can go out and look at my LinkedIn profile. And my LinkedIn profile has links to some of my either conferences or areas where I've done speaking events. So they can learn, or they can go to my Facebook page personally.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining me. It was a pleasure. This is Aryan Mohindra and Baqar Shameem.